The digital summons landed in my inbox the very morning the notary handed over the deed to my first standalone residence. No courtesy call, no hint of trouble, just a stark PDF attachment and a subject line that screamed my new legal name, followed by a list of my parents and a sibling. You are being sued by your kin. I didn't blink. My fingers, still warm from clutching the fresh key fob, simply pressed open. The silence of the empty entryway was deafening, devoid of celebratory shouts or congratulatory bouquets, filled instead with the oppressive presence of calculated malice. I started clocking hours at age 16, not for pocket money to splurge on concert tickets or fashionable attire, but because the utility bills wouldn't magically pay themselves when every spare cent was diverted to my sister's elite equestrian lessons, her emotional support animals' specialized dietary needs, and extravagant mindfulness retreats. She was hailed as a prodigy, too delicate to navigate the harshness of the everyday world. It seemed, was the everyday world. I balanced evening shifts, weekend doubleheaders, and rigorous academic schedules, often scrubbing floors with one hand while mentally reviewing calculus equations. I never requested financial aid from them. My textbooks were paid for with rolls of coins meticulously saved, and my meals often consisted of cheap, dehydrated pasta as she flaunted gourmet meals from high-end resort spas on social media. Still, I never voiced a single complaint. I mistakenly equated silent endurance with profound affection. I truly believed they would, one day, truly see me. When I secured admission to a highly competitive university, I kept it under wraps until the initial tuition installment was fully paid. Every single penny was my own. Competitive grants, consistent freelance design projects, and a teaching assistantship. I methodically constructed my future, brick by deliberate brick, while they poured every last drop of their resources into meticulously crafting my sister's fragile fantasy. One day, she'll truly blossom, my mother Maeve Ellis would often declare. They simply needed me to prolong my sacrifice a little further. The critical turning point arrived with a misdirected audio clip, an unintentional recording, spanning 46 pivotal seconds. My sister Cora Bell had intended it for a friend, but it landed in my inbox instead. I mean, honestly, they probably think Eris is doing all this just for herself, but we all know she's really just our emergency parachute. I mean, why else tolerate her? Then her bright, carefree laughter tinkled. My mother's distant voice, barely audible, cut in at the end. Oh, she'll manage. She always does. Their laughter swelled, more pronounced this time. I played it back 3 times, the cruel words sinking in before I erased it. Not because I harbored any forgiveness for them, but because I had finally absorbed the crucial truth I'd unknowingly craved. And I had no intention of letting them discover I'd heard it. That very evening, I began to draft my strategy. It was cold, precise, and utterly devoid of emotion. First, financial independence. I meticulously refinanced all my existing debts under my freshly incorporated personal LLC, moving with quiet swiftness. Second, complete separation. I altered my phone number, locked down all my social media profiles, and systematically rerouted my postal deliveries. Third, absolute silence. That proved to be the most challenging phase. They pleaded for updates, for check-ins. How is your new career going, dearest Eris Stone? I offer them nothing. I allowed the expanding void to speak volumes. I finalized the purchase of the house after 2 years of meticulous planning. It was a modest, charming, single-bedroom dwelling, deliberately designed with no superfluous space for unexpected guests. When I omitted telling them about it, they perceived it as a personal slight. When I declined to extend an invitation, they declared it an act of war. It turned out that genuine autonomy was deeply offensive to individuals who firmly believed they held a claim over your very existence. The lawsuit asserted I had unjustly appropriated Cora Bell's prospective future, arguing that my down payment ought to have been allocated to her master's program in transcendental sound therapy. They claimed that my parents, Jared Doyle and Maeve Ellis, were utterly dependent on my success for the collective welfare of the family. They argued I bore a fundamental moral obligation to continue providing, as if I were a perpetual trust fund, not a sentient human being. But here is the critical point about moral obligations. They only truly exist when there is an underpinning of mutual respect. and I had exhausted my reserves of that the night I fully comprehended I was merely their fallback plan. I immediately retained legal counsel, not because I feared an unfavorable outcome, but because I intended for every single page of that countersuit to deliver a sharp, undeniable sting. Claims of defamation, severe emotional distress, and relentless financial harassment filled the documents. I also filed an urgent motion to freeze any remaining joint financial accounts that still bore my name. As it happened, my name was indeed still linked to a few, and they had evidently been planning to empty them shortly. I outmaneuvered them by a mere 6 hours. The courtroom proceedings were dispassionate, almost sterile. My attorney, sharp and unyielding, methodically read their incriminating text messages and email exchanges aloud. We need her to genuinely believe she's pursuing this for her own benefit. Don't overdo the guilt trip. Just subtly allude to her familial duties. Cora Bell wept performatively on the witness stand, claiming profound misunderstanding, insisting I had cruelly abandoned her. I met her gaze directly, unflinching, and uttered nothing. She recoiled nonetheless. The presiding judge ruled definitively in my favor. Every single one of their audacious claims was thoroughly dismissed. Their counterpetition was unequivocally denied. They had lost, not merely the legal case, but their iron grip, their carefully constructed illusion, the entire elaborate fantasy they had so meticulously built where my sole purpose was to exist in their service. I officially moved in my new home the very next day. The air inside smelled of fresh paint, clean pine, and boundless possibility. There were no looming lawsuits, no suffocating expectations, no one demanding yet another sacrifice from me. I stood in the exact center of my living room, a simple glass of water in my hand, the warm afternoon sunlight streaming across my face, and thought, this is the true sensation of ownership, not just of this house, but profoundly, beautifully of myself. They have not attempted to contact me directly since the judge's ruling. However, I've heard through a distant cousin that Maeve Ellis and Jared Doyle are telling anyone who will listen that I inexplicably cut them off without cause. Let them. Let them continue to enact their theatrical victimhood in a narrative they desperately attempted to write for me. I meticulously rewrote it with bricks, with unyielding silence, with every unforeseen step they never anticipated. I was not cruel. I was simply, unequivocally done. There exists a crucial distinction. Many believe revenge must be a loud, destructive, definitive explosion.